Alright everybody, hello. Today we're going to be making a guide for Endless in PokeRogue. This video is for anyone who just beat Classic Mode and is going to start doing their Endless journey so that they can get a whole bunch of shinies, egg vouchers, and unlock even more Pokemon in this game. This video will go over how I normally beat Endless Mode on wave 5850 and how I always get there. This video will also contain a little bit of a sample of what an Endless journey might look like at the end of the video, so make sure to stay tuned until that happens. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started. This video is going to go over the easiest and most simple way to beat Endless Mode. In my opinion, the most simple way to beat Endless Mode in PokeRogue is using a Metal Burst and Sturdy strategy, but we'll go over that a little bit later. For now, we're going to go over just the kind of team composition you are going to want for an Endless playthrough. There are roughly 4 different types of Pokemon that you are going to want to have on an Endless team. Luckily enough, for an Endless playthrough, you start with 15 points rather than the Classic Mode, which is 10, so you have a lot more points to work with. So let's go over the first type of Pokemon you are going to want. The carry Pokemon. There are a lot of great Pokemon that you can use as a carry Pokemon, and a carry Pokemon is normally a Pokemon that will be able to, on its own, take you to roughly about wave 2000. Some do a little bit less, around 1500, some fall off around 2500. It all kind of depends on what kind of strategy you use for, what items you put on it, and all that. So let's go over a few of the Pokemon that I think are really good for that carry. The first one I want to talk about is Eternatus. Now, Eternatus is the last Pokemon you unlock in the game, being at the end of Classic after you've unlocked everything else. And so just because you're starting out on an Endless game, it probably means that you don't normally have this Pokemon unlocked, especially because you will need its egg move Dragon Energy for him to be very good. But if you have all that unlocked, this is a fantastic mon, especially because you can Gigantamax it to be even stronger. More on the bulkier side, less on the offense side, so make sure you take that in consideration if you ever unlock that. But he is also the one that costs the most in the entire game, being 8 reduced all the way down like I have here, and that's over half of your Endless team, and so make sure that you take that in consideration. But if you haven't unlocked and you have the room for it, I highly recommend this Pokemon. This Pokemon is insanely strong. Next is, I think, probably one of the most common Endless carries, at least it's the first one that had me beat Endless, and that is Zacian. Zacian is really strong, being, giving Intrepid Sword and having Unnerve is a really good ability to have in Endless, because a lot of Pokemon later on down the line will have a whole bunch of berries, and if you don't one-shot them, they'll go pretty much back to full health because of those berries, and they'll get a whole bunch of buffs afterwards as well, making it even harder to kill. So having this Pokemon getting Intrepid Sword to boost its attack every time it enters the battlefield, and having Unnerve to stop them from eating berries is very strong. And he has a spread move in Precipice Blades. While that is an egg move, it's still a really strong spread move, especially if you have the wide guards on top of it for him to actually hit it 100% of the time. So if you have this mon unlocked, if you have Precipice Blades, and even all of its other egg moves, it is a fantastic Endless carry. Another one here is Miraidon. Miraidon is also very strong, having not Dragon Energy, but Corn Forcer, so it can have a little bit less HP and still hit insanely strong. And with Corn Forcer negating the ability of some Pokemon, sometimes that's really useful, so that you can go ahead and just hit both of them, have them reduce their abilities to nothing, and then kill them on another hit. Maybe it'll have Volt Absorb, and then next turn you can hit them with a Parabolic Charge or something to heal up a little bit of the damage you've taken. But this one is excellent, especially with its ability, Hadron Engine, and Opportunist, because a lot of Pokemon in Endless will be raising their stats with berries once you knock them down a little bit. This is a very strong candidate for an Endless carry. The next ones I'm going to talk about are Groudon and Kyogre, and I'm kind of mixing these two together because they basically do the same thing. They're really strong weather setters, and if they get their Mega Evolution or their Primal forms, they get even stronger, and they basically just do the same thing with Eruption and Precipice Blades and Water Spout. They're absolutely devastatingly strong, especially if you're at full health. So if you have these ones unlocked, you should definitely use them. They're a great early start. Now, they do cost a lot starting at 9, but you can reduce it down to 7, and it's very strong, especially because now both of them have the Water Spout and Eruption when they're at full health, and when they've taken a little bit of damage, they have their Precipice Blades and Origin Pulse to still hit spread. And spread is pretty important because if you have a double battle and you only knock out one, the other mon might be able to do a bunch of damage to you and knock you out before you're able to knock it it out. So having spread is very important, and these two are the best when it comes to spread because they get them by level up and they don't need an egg move of any kind. Both of these don't need any egg moves, so they're very, very strong candidates. Another really strong candidate, just like Zacian, is Rayquaza. It has a really strong Mega Evolution, boosting its attacks and speed by a whole bunch when it Mega Evolves, so it's very, very strong. It also has Unnerve, which is pretty important as a carry Pokemon. So if you have this mon and you have its passive ability unlocked and you have Core Enforcer to hit spread dragon attacks, it is a very, very strong candidate and I highly recommend it. A few other quick ones that I'll mention are Mewtwo. Mewtwo is a lot cheaper than the other ones. It can Mega Evolve into Mewtwo Y, but unfortunately it doesn't get something like Psychic Terrain and Expanding Force. It has no access really to a really good spread move, so unfortunately that kind of holds it back. Another one is Darkrai. Darkrai is pretty strong. It has Fiery Wrath as an egg move, but it doesn't get any sort of like really good boost. It has Unnerve, which is really nice, so if it's that your only option, it's a very cheap carry that will take you pretty far, I'd say. Another one is Hoopa. Hoopa does need to have its Fiery Wrath and probably Shell Smash sometimes to have that kind of like damage. And it has Magician, which is really good in order to steal items off of the opponents, especially because you get later down in Endless. Every single kind of Pokemon will have some sort of item and a really good one for you to grab and steal. Opportunist also being able to steal the stats of the boosts from the opponent Pokemon as well. That's a very good one, but also you will need some egg moves unlocked for this one. And the last one that I'll probably talk about is Spectrier. Spectrier is really good because Grimnade boosts your special attack every time you take a KO. You will need the Astral Barrage, which is the rare egg move for Spectrier, but it is also a relatively cheap, strong option if you want to go that route. But legendaries aren't the only mon that can do a carry. Now, they probably won't carry as far, but they're still relatively strong. A few that come to mind are Axew. Axew has Unnerve as one of its hidden abilities, and it has Dragon Maw as a passive with Glaive Rush, lots of really good moves like Bitter Blade, Dire Claw, Stone Axe for damage as egg moves, so you could definitely use that. Another one of my favorites is a Contrary Snivy with Contrary Draco Meteor and Leaf Storm. Make it rain to give it a whole bunch of a special attack boost while giving you a whole bunch of money are really good ones. But you could do just about anything. You can also use Drillbur. Drillbur is really, really good because it can get Shift Gear as its egg move and be able to sweep with that. But yeah, you don't necessarily need a legendary Pokemon to do a carry. While legendary Pokemons are the ones that are more preferred, you can use Pokemon like these to do your carry. It might, again, not be as strong, but it can still definitely do the trick. But talking about all those carry Pokemon, I normally lean towards Zacian as my favorite one, and I'm going to go ahead and add that as my carry. So next, we're going to be talking about abilities like Pickup. Bar none, the best pickup Pokemon in the game is Zigzagoon. Zigzagoon only costing 0.5 and having pickup not as a passive, but just a normal ability is insanely good. And if you get enough candies, you can get Runaway on it as well, which is really good for kind of like leaving battles that you don't think you could win, or kind of just having Max Lures active and Max Shiny Charms and being able to like cycle through a whole bunch of Pokemon and finding Shinies quickly that way as well. This mon is the best when it comes to that. Another mon that kind of does the same thing is Sentret. It costs a little bit less, but it doesn't get pickup as its normal ability. It gets it as its passive, but it does have access to both. So if you have like a higher shiny rate for this one and you have its passive unlocked over Zigzagoon, it makes sense if you want to go with that one. But having both that ability of Runaway and pickup is such a magnificent combination for Pokemon, especially in Endless. So for me, because I have a Red Star Shiny Zigzagoon, I'm going to add Zigzagoon into the party for this one. But Zigzagoon and Sentret aren't the only ones that can do this. While they are definitely the best of the two, especially because of their double abilities, you will probably not have maybe the passive ability unlocked on Zigzagoon that you want, or the passive ability on Sentret that you want. So there are definitely some other Pokemon that you can definitely use that have this ability, but make sure to go ahead and check the link in the description for a GitHub link that will have a Pokédex of this game, which is very, very useful for planning out these kinds of things and looking at just what Pokemon have what abilities, where to catch Pokemon like that. But this Zigzagoon is definitely the one that I will be using. And next, let's go ahead and talk about a very important aspect to Endless, and that is the experience you gain. A very important aspect in Endless mode is being able to keep up with the experience and the rates at which the wild Pokemon grow. Because there are no trainer battles in Endless mode, it's just straight Pokemon, the amount of experience you get is a lot less than you normally would get in a Classic playthrough. You know, in Classic, you pretty much level up and kind of stick with the same rough level of the opponents, but in Endless, it could skyrocket very, very fast, and then you could just kind of be left in the dust. So something you will need is PokeRus. PokeRus is just a virus, even though it's very helpful for you, that will eventually spread to your entire party once you have it on a team, that will give a 1.5 times boost to experience. It is a very good one because, especially with lucky eggs that you can add and golden eggs to increase your experience even more and all the experience charms you gain, with this, it will give a 50% boost to all of that, and being able to have that will have it so that your levels can kind of match with the rest of the opponents and even exceed it at some points with like rare candies and candy jars going over the level cap of that certain wave. PokeRus is a must have. Now, it is a Pokemon that you can add to your team and then later on dump it for something better if you find it in Endless. So I just recommend getting the cheapest option you have. If you have one with a decent amount of shiny luck, that is fantastic. For today, there is Morpeko. I have a blue star shiny of it, so I can easily add that into the team and kind of just dispose of it later. One quick thing I would like to note is, let's say, for example, you find a Pancham out in the wild. You cannot get PokeRus from catching Pokemon out in the wild. You have to start your team with PokeRus. So even if you find a Sock, if you find a Pancham or a Morpeko out in the wild and you catch them, they will not have PokeRus. So make sure that you have a Pokemon with PokeRus for that day in your party. Now, PokeRus changes every 24 hours, so if you don't have like a good Pokemon for PokeRus, or you don't have that Pokemon unlocked for it, you could definitely just wait until the next day to start your Endless playthrough, and the PokeRus mons will be different. Now, the beginning of Endless is very much the hardest part of getting an Endless run started. Once you get to roughly around wave 2000 and you have all the tools that you need, you should be able to beat any sort of wave relatively simple. So let's go ahead, and now that we've talked about the beginning and how the best way it is to beat it, let's talk about our Endless strategy. Our Endless strategy is a combination of the ability Sturdy and the attack Metal Burst. And so for this mon, we are going to be using a fusion of two Pokemon. For this one, I really like running Nacli because it does get Salt Cure, the best damage over time move in the game, and he's the only one that can learn it. So we're gonna go ahead and add Nacli to that. He also gets Sturdy naturally, which is really, really nice. So for a fusion, you would want someone with a passive ability, because our normal ability is already taken, that could kind of use that as a secondary ability. So for our passive ability that we kind of want, I am a big fan of running into a Magic Guard Drifloon. Now, a really good strategy with these two is that they have a whole bunch of HP and they don't have that much speed to begin with. So having this kind of combination of these two, once they have all the moves that they need, can do a whole bunch of damage. Because once you have a Pokemon that doesn't really have that much HP combined with some sort of Sturdy mon, it can't do that much damage with Metal Burst. But a combination of having like a fusion total of about 110 HP with this fusion is very, very good. You can easily get over 1,000,000 HP if you're like grinding it really, really well. So having these two in your party is very, very nice. And this is like the main fusion I work with, especially because at the end, they'll have a combination of 5 luck. They'll have all the abilities that they'll want, and it'll be exactly what you want to use pretty much in every wave for Endless mode. Now, this is my strategy. You can easily have a different combination of Pokemon. Like a lot of people used to run the Archaludon Metal Burst strategy, which is fine, and it works just as well. I think this is a little bit better. It's just a little bit more setup that is required. You will need to do a few fusion dances to try and get exactly what you'll need, but once you have that set, you'll have a super, super strong Pokemon. So I'm gonna go ahead and have our Metal Burst strategy be a fusion of these two Pokemon. Another quick thing I would like to note is you do not need to start with the Metal Burst strategy in mind. Now, I'm lucky enough where I've played this game a lot and I have the stuff unlocked for both of Nakalai and Drifloon and able to do this strategy. But you definitely could just catch a sturdy mon out in the wild. You could definitely catch like a Nakalai, Knucklestack, or Garganacl, so you can learn Soul Cure and have sturdy and get Metal Burst on it later. You don't need to start with it. You could definitely catch it out in the wild and get it later on. If you just want to fill your party up with a carry and a lot of luck for your first Endless playthrough, you can definitely do that. That is definitely something that you can do. But luckily enough, I have pretty high rarity, like Red Star and Blue Star Pokemon that can do a really good Metal Burst strategy, so I'm going to be grabbing them. Now, we have our carry, we have our PokeRus Mon, we have our pickup Mon, and we have our late game Metal Burst strategy. There's really only one more thing that we will need for an Endless playthrough, and that's a Prankster Pokemon. And there are a few really good options. Here are two really good options. The first one I have is Cottony. Now, Cottony gets Prankster as its normal ability, so that is a great one if you're just starting out Endless and you don't have everything unlocked in the game. You can use Cottony. It learns Leech Seed by level up, and so having a Leech Seed Prankster is really strong. Now, I don't think this one is as strong, specifically because you need Sleep Powder as an egg move to kind of like really make use of it. Now, it is still a really good mon, don't get me wrong. It's what helped me beat my first ever Endless run, so this one is definitely viable. But I think the best one is most likely going to be Smeargle. Right down here, I already added it to the team. Smeargle is really strong because it gets Prankster as its passive ability, which means you could do fusion dances to get a really good normal ability, like another Sturdy on this Prankster Pokemon, making it so that it will live and be able to get 2 Pranksters off unless it gets double targeted in a double battle, which is really strong. It also has some really good egg moves that you can use to get unlocked there. So I highly recommend, if you have the ability to use Smeargle over Cottony, if you have better like shinies on Cottony, I completely understand, and like I do, I have a Red Star Cottony, but I only have a Blue Star Smeargle. But I still think like for the late game of Endless, this Pokemon is better for that. Now, even though I grabbed a Prankster Pokemon, you don't necessarily need it, but it is very nice to have. But if you just want to fill this last slot with, again, like some sort of just shiny Pokemon to increase your shiny or your item rates or your legendary Pokemon rates, that is definitely something that can be added, especially if you just want a more simple Endless playthrough and you're not trying to beat Endless on your first try and you're just trying to get some candies started, some new shinies, so that you can have your next Endless run be really good. That is definitely something that you can have. All right, and now that we've kind of talked about what our team composition looks like, I want to give a small little game plan that is going to be going on and you kind of want to keep in your head as you're going through Endless mode. So, for our carry is basically going to be taking in a bunch of the items from the pickup Pokemon that we have right here, and that Pokemon is just going to get as buffed as it possibly can to do a whole bunch of damage and kind of take us easily through the first few thousand waves. And while that's happening, we'll have our PokeRus Mon that'll be on our team, and that Mon will spread its PokeRus, and as soon as we find a good Pokemon in the wild for us to do fusion dances with, like a Steel Mon that can learn Metal Burst that we could fuse onto Nakalai and then unfuse, we'll be able to get rid of this Morpeko because it doesn't do anything to the team, and it will be able to give us room for fusion dances, so we can get, like I said, Metal Burst onto here, or if we have a really good like Spore Pokemon, we can add that into Smeargle and then unfuse it then later. There's a lot of good options, but you will always want to have one Pokemon on your team that can kind of be like dropped onto the wayside and is not used as much. So now that with that kind of like game plan in mind is keep your carry buffed and have it easily sweep through the majority of the teams, and use Morpeko to spread PokeRus, and once it's done that, go ahead and drop it for some other stuff. So we want to be getting a whole bunch of good items like shiny charms and stuff like that, and then do DNA splicing stuff with these 3 Pokemon mostly. And as a little fair warning, if you are using Zigzagoon with its passive ability unlocked, you really don't want to be kind of like doing any fusion with it because it has both a really good ability and a really good passive ability for Endless, so make sure you leave that alone. But later on, you will probably want to fuse with Zacian to keep a nerve, but have a different ability going forward, because once you get later on to like roughly floor 3000, any sort of like max damage, really strong attack will do nothing because of the token system. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But now that I've given a team outline, let's go ahead and get started with an example of what an Endless run might look like. All right, now that we have our example run started, let's go ahead and go over just a quick few game settings. Now, I have everything set to max speed and to skip. That's mostly just so that I can have these endless playthroughs go a lot faster than like just going through a whole bunch of animations and waiting out. I recommend for endless that you do that. I have the egg skip on for never because I like going through Pokemon one at a time. That kind of contradicts what I said before, but that's just a little personal thing for me. You can always have it set to ask or always just to do that. I have the battle style set to switch because if you start off a battle with set mode and there's a certain Pokemon out front that doesn't do too good later on in endless mode, you could just end up not being able to win that battle because of that. Now, this doesn't really matter for the beginning of endless, but it does matter for later on. So I highly recommend you have it set to switch. And the last one is enable retries on. Now, I personally am under the opinion that endless is purely for grinding out the game, completing like your account, getting more shinies and candies and stuff like that. So I don't think it's bad if you want to retry stuff. I think I honestly do it a lot. I tend to more just kind of like reset the browser because Control R is faster for me to click than just waiting for all my Pokemon to go down and then retrying it that way. But to each their own, you can use enable retries on. I have it set on just in case that I have some sort of like mishap and I'm not like paying too close of attention and all my Pokemon go down. I can have the enable retries on so that it doesn't just accidentally delete the like save file. But that is all that we have for that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with an example playthrough for Endless. All right, and so as you were seeing, every 5 floors we go to a different area, and every 10 floors we get a full team heal, just like in classic mode. So in every 50 floors there will be a Paradox Pokemon battle. As you see, we have Sandy Shocks here as a boss on the screen. Now, these Pokemon you cannot run away from, so you can't do a runaway strategy all the way up to 5,850. Unfortunately, you have to stick with this. So I wanted to take a quick little check-in to show you how things are going. So we do have 2 Soft Sands, which is really nice for Precipice Blades, which is our spread damage move on our carry Pokemon. And something that we picked up that is going to be very useful later on are the Lucky Eggs. We don't have any Golden Eggs, but those are just as important, if not more. Basically, what we're going to be doing is later on, once we hit like the max level on a certain Pokemon, so for example, if we had, if this was the beginning of a round and we had our max level already set, we would want to move the Lucky Egg to the next Pokemon that is the most useful, that probably being either Drifloon or Nacli, since they'll be our carry later on. But that is an example there. Also, one thing I would like to note, we did find in Zinc, we do not want to give a Zinc or a Carbos or a Iron to our Metal Burstmon. Our Metal Burstmon wants to have a negative speed nature, wants to eventually have 10 Soldews on it so it has a speed of 1 so that it always goes last, and it does not want to have any defense investment because it wants to be able to go from full HP down to sturdy so that Metal Burst does the most amount of damage. But then later on, with a bunch of leftovers, Focus Bands, Healing Charms, Citrus Berries, Enigma Berries, that will eventually get it so that it will go from Metal Burst to full, down to 1, all the way back up in the exact same turn. So that is the late game strategy. So make sure you don't add any of those vitamins on that Pokemon. But otherwise, we haven't really got anything too useful or more things that are of note. We did find a candy jar and a few experience charms along the way. But now we can just go ahead. Oh, it has Earth Eater. So we can just go ahead and just use our carry, sweep through the end of this Paradox fight, and then we can continue on with our endless run. And actually, we just evolved Nacli into Knucklestack, and since we started with Nacli and we didn't have to catch it later on, it will evolve and it'll learn Salt Cure. And obviously we want Salt Cure. Salt Cure is an amazing move, like I was mentioning later on. So now that we got that golden Pokeball, we now get 4 items in our shop, and now we can talk about the tokens in this game. Now, this basically makes it so some matches are really hard, or some like runs are really hard to start off with. There are a few different types of tokens in this game. There is the attack up token, so opposing Pokemon do more damage. There's the defense tokens, so that our Pokemon do less damage to it. And then there's ones for poison, sleep, paralysis, and like burn, all the status conditions, you can get afflicted by just getting hit. So let's say that there was max tokens, there would be about a 50% chance, I believe, once you get the max amount of tokens, so that when a Dugtrio, let's say, hits you with a tackle, it can put you to sleep, it could burn you, it could paralyze you, it could freeze you, all those things. That's what kind of makes Endless hard. So we got the poison token, so that adds a 5% chance on every single hit we could get afflicted by a poison thing. So it could use Earthquake, and it can hit that 5% chance and get me to be poisoned for that turn, or not for that turn, just like for that round. So it all depends on RNG. That is why starting out an Endless run can be really, really hard, because you're technically behind on experience as soon as you start. You don't have any sort of lucky eggs or golden eggs in your inventory, which are the main reasons on top of PokeRus on how you can keep up with the experience in Endless. But yeah, so just make sure you know that, and now we can go ahead and continue on with our Endless example. All right, and we've made it to floor 100. Another Sandy Shocks. This is really, really funny. But I'm going to go ahead and go over a few things that I've gotten. Now, I've gotten a berry pouch, which is super, super nice to have in the Endless mode, because you're going to be stocked up on berries the majority of the time. I got a Dynamax band, which is like fine. It's not nothing too crazy. But I've started now giving the lucky eggs to Drifblim, as it will be our Endless carry at like the end portion of the game. Zacian still has just a bunch of like the normal stuff. We are just kind of throwing everything on him, all the defense and like the speeds up. We haven't gotten any proteins yet, but we do have some soft sands on it, so Precipice Blades is still doing pretty good damage. Ladoon's pickup ability is going crazy, giving us so many different types of berries. We're kind of just throwing it around. And everyone else is just kind of sitting and slowly gaining levels. So we're going to go ahead and just keep moving forward. As you can see, we're doing pretty well so far. We haven't really come into anything that's like super useful yet. We haven't gotten a shiny charm or the lock capsule yet. If you haven't seen my video about items yet, you really 100% should. It is going to be in the top right video right now. Or if you want to go ahead and check the description for an Endless item tier list guide. But if you don't really want to like go into the deep like woods of it, if you don't want a full explanation, this right here is the end result that I have made. You always want to grab the lock capsule. The lock capsule is the most important item for Endless. It makes everything so consistent for you to grab more Master Balls, grab the shiny charms early. Even if you see a shiny charm and a lock capsule, take the lock capsule. It will get you shiny charms faster. It will get you all these other items faster, and all these items as well. If you're aiming for like more rare candies, or you're aiming for some wide lens or some soul dews to like flesh out your Endless strategy, the lock capsule is the item that does it. So make sure that you go ahead and check that video out if you haven't already. But otherwise, let's go ahead and continue on with our Endless example. All right, and we are back on another 50 floor. Now, again, with the Sandy Shocks, which is insanely funny. So we have only gotten a few other things. We got ourselves a Golden Punch, which is super nice because now we're actually getting some money. We got ourselves the Mega Bracelet, which isn't really useful for our things so far, but we haven't really gotten anything else. No shinies, no lock capsule, no shiny charm. So I'm just gonna go ahead and Swords Dance once. We have ourselves a Lumberry, and we can just Magical Torque one time and absolutely destroy this Shandy Socks. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and keep going, and we'll see if anything cool pops up. All right, and on floor 164, we unfortunately got the DNA splicers, which right now is not useful because we have nothing to fuse. We don't have any sort of steel Pokemon or metal burstmon to add to Garganacl. We don't want to fuse these two yet because we want to fuse these once the team moveset is complete for them. We don't have any like room for anything, so this is just an unfortunate find that we got here. So let's just go ahead and keep moving forward. All right, and at floor right before the Paradox battle, we got ourselves the Rusted Sword. So now with Zacian is poisoned, I actually have no idea if he's going to have his poison gone. But no, he's still poisoned as a Steel type. That's pretty funny. But let's go ahead and get to floor 200. All right, and we made it to floor 200. The only thing of note that we have gotten is Zacian's second form, which honestly at floor 200 is not very good. We really want to be having some really good like lock capsules, at least a shiny charm or something. So let's just go ahead and beat this Great Tusk and move on to floor 250 if we can. All right, and at floor 250, every 250 floors, you will have an Eternatus fight. Now, I have an X attack and an X special defense for this fight, so this shouldn't be all that bad. But the only things I've gotten of note is I did get a Leftovers and I got 2 Grip Claws. And that's just about it. I haven't really gotten anything else that is super useful. I've gotten no lock capsules. I've only had 2 EXP alls, and I've gotten no shiny charms or ability patches or anything like that. So honestly, I think that this is a worthy part to, after beating Eternatus, just to like for fun, to reset this Endless run because we did not get the stuff that we really want to have throughout an Endless run. Now, technically, you could just keep going because the laws of probability. You will get it eventually. But for me, I like kind of starting out and having the highest shiny charms throughout, or the highest shiny rates or the lock capsule early, so I can have it throughout the majority of Endless instead of just having it really at the end. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. Let's go ahead and Swords Dance a few times. Now, we luckily have that X Special Defense that's really helping us. So, boom. We've now gotten to max. And we've hailed up all the way with that berry pouch. Let's go ahead and use Purposeless Blades. And boom, already down to his last one. Now, you cannot catch Eternatus in this mode. So, that is something of note. And this looks like it's not going to be this wasn't the winning play. But that's okay. We can just go ahead and just Salt Cure. And then I'm just going to go ahead and use the Diamond Storm just for some damage. Oh, it missed, but that's fine. Oh, but it dodged a Turn Beam. All right, see? Just a little bit of damage at a time. The damage over time moves in this game are super, super useful. Let's just try and covet, see if we can steal anything cool. Nope, nothing. All right, we just E-speed it, and then the Salt Cure will finish it off. Boom. Just like that. And obviously the Eternatus fights will be a little bit different in later on down the line. You'll want to have your Metal Burst strategy probably working around floor 1500 just in case your carry can't do it. But this run is obviously not really kind of what we're really looking for. We got an Egg Voucher Premium, and that's kind of all I was looking for at this point because there's nothing else that we really have. We don't have any proteins on Zacian or that many Carbos, so honestly, this run is going to be dropped off, but let me go ahead and show you what a real endless save file kind of looks like for this kind of playstyle. All right, and here's my current real endless playthrough at floor 3691. So let me go ahead and show you what the team is up to. So we have our sweeper, basically our Metal Burst sweeper with Magic Guard and Sturdy. We have all the items we need on it. We have maximum soul dues to make our speed stat 1. We got our leftovers already set to max. There we go. And we got focus bands, and we got a grip claws, and we got some King's Rock just in case Metal Burst doesn't kill. We could maybe do a flinch on some sort of thing. I don't know. It's just kind of on there. We have our golden punches on there as well to give us even more money. This is our Lanoon, who has picked up a few good items that I haven't transferred over yet because I'm mainly doing the run strategy, so I'm trying to get all the lures active, and since I have the maximum shiny charms right now, I'm kind of just trying to go through and loop through because I have about 50 Master Balls right now, so I'm just trying to catch all the shiny mons I can get. And now, this is just another red shiny that I found along the way, so I got a really cool looking new red shiny Pokemon. But this is what my Zacian has turned into. It's no longer a sweeper. What it is it has Misty Surge, which negates the ability to be status conditioned. It has Unnerve still, which is really good. And instead of Adamant now doing damage, it has Jolly, because it has Population Bomb, Precipice Blades, Iron Head, and Protect, because Swords Dance is not going to be helpful at this point. All these moves hit multiple times, or this one hits a lot of times, and this one hits a few times, has a chance to flinch, and this one is a spread move. So, the main thing with this one is we have maximum King's Rock, so we have a 30% chance to flinch every time we attack, and we have maximum Multi-Lens, so that now our Population Bomb will hit 40 times, and every single hit has a 30% chance to flinch, and an even higher percent chance to flinch with the Iron Head because it already has a natural flinch chance, and this one's a spread move with that same deal. So it is super, super nice. We have maximum Carbo, so that we have a whole bunch of speed, so we're pretty much faster than anything that we see. We got ourselves the mini black hole item to steal items from, but basically this is here so that if there's a double battle, we can Metal Burst one mon down at a time, and using Population Bomb to kind of like freeze the other one so it can't do anything, and having Grip Claws as well to steal a whole bunch of stuff. Every single hit also has a 50% chance to steal something as well. And now this is my Mega Altaria. It is basically just our 6-star luck, and here's our Smeargle. Now with Salt Cure, Revival Blessing, which has been very nice to have. Spore with Prankster is really nice, and King Shield as well. We don't have Leech Seed on this set, but so far we haven't really needed it. And also for this, we finally got our moveset of Metal Burst, Salt Cure, Protect, and Curse, because some mons will not really go down to just Metal Burst. Having Curse on them will also be really good. And because we have maximum Focus Bands, we have a 50% chance to live every single hit on top of our Sturdy, so if we're not at max HP, that will happen as well. Also, I did forgot to mention we have Shell Bells and leftovers with the Healing Charm maximum, so we're getting a whole bunch of HP back at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of roughly what this strategy is now that we actually have everything set up. So we have our Metal Burst. Dugtrio is going to go first. It's going to use Earthquake. We go down to all the way down. And we have the tokens where it has a chance to live. Where's that one? Yeah, it has a 20% chance to live. This Endure token is very, very annoying. But now that we've gotten that, we'll go ahead and Protect to get back to maximum HP. We have our Magic Guard protecting us from damage from like the Sandstorm, from Hail, and from Burn, which is why we have our Burn right now. We have the Flame Orb active, and then we just do it again. Boom, brings us down to 1 HP. We Metal Burst back at them, and there we go. We get a whole bunch of experience just like that. We have all our golden eggs and lucky eggs pretty much on this Pokemon, so we immediately get to the maximum level, and there it is just like that. And now we just kind of like loop. We have that lock capsule, so we're going to be able to kind of loop and get the items we want. We have so much money from our like grabbing relic gold and all that kind of stuff, so we can kind of just loop until we find stuff that we want. I do want some Rogue Balls just in case, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Oh, and here's a great example. Technically, right now, I am kind of doing a thing where I will run away from this encounter, technically, because none of them are shiny. But for an example of a double battle, I will go ahead and show this. So, Dynacko will stay up front. We'll go ahead and go to our Tapu Zashini, because it's fused with the Tapu Fini, I believe, which is the one with Misty Surge. We're going to go ahead and protect both Mons, just so that they're both at maximum HP. One of them is going for Earthquake, so that made that fight really easy. But we're going to go ahead and do a Metal Burst and Population Bomb on this Budsdale. Now, it's going to steal a whole bunch of stuff. Look at that. We got a Golden Egg. We got a few other things. And there we go. We got hit, and we Metal Burst back. And there goes Excadrill. So now we can kind of do that same thing, where instead of protecting, because it is 2v1 now, I can Salt Cure and Population Bomb to pretty much automatically flinch it. And then we Salt Cure, and now we're back to maximum HP. And now we can go ahead and Metal Burst and Protect, because we don't want Zashini to do a flinch here so that it can get dealt damage and knock back. And basically that is it. That is the strategy that I have been using, and that's how it works. And beautiful, amassable, pretty much exactly what I'm looking for. And look, we even ran into a fusion of Excadrill and Greninja. But yeah, that is the strategy that I work with for Endless, and that's how I beat Endless for my first time. But that is it, and that is my guide for Endless in PokeRogue. Thank you guys so much for watching all the way through this video. Make sure you guys leave a comment down below of what you really liked, your Endless carry is currently right now, some strategies that I may have missed, and any questions that you have, I'll be happy to answer them in the comment section down below. Make sure you also go into the description down below to check out my classic guide and also my candy farming guide if you haven't already seen them. But yeah, I also wanted to make a small video suggestion to Netter. He made a very good Endless guide for those who are more like advanced and have played this game a lot and don't need to just use the Metal Burst strategy. There's an even stronger strategy, but requires a lot more unlocked. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the video description as well. If you are already beaten Endless mode and you wanna kinda just use a strategy that will pretty much never fail, you can go ahead and check that video out in the description below. But yeah, make sure to for you guys to join the Discord. We have a Discord. We talk about Pokemon, PokeRogue every single day. We show off our shinies, show off all of our egg hatches and all that fun stuff. But yeah, make sure to also check me out on Twitch. I do stream every Tuesday and Thursday around 5 p.m. after work, Pacific Standard Time. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video all the way through, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.